Hey everyone, Scott Hansen here from NFL Red Zone. I hope you're checking out 1 hour of 5-Yard Rush, one of the best podcasts on NFL football in the UK.
Happy Tuesday, Rush Nation. This is it. This is the last week of the fantasy regular season. There is so little time left now to get into those playoffs. We're literally looking at just 5 or 6 days is going to be the difference between you getting in the fantasy playoffs and you not for 2025. So it's an unbelievable time. Advent's here, Christmas around the corner. So much going on in everyone's lives, but this is the time to lock in. This is the time to pick up those important wins. And I'm actually going to change the waiver wire structure this week. And I'm going to focus a little bit more on just who the key must-adds are at the top of the video. And then I'll go into some deeper plays per position, streaming options, etc. This waiver wire this week, you need to start looking out for who potentially is available in your leagues. Now, one player I would definitely be keeping an eye on is Mike Evans. He's actually owned still in over 50% of leagues, so he's not someone I would normally put in a waiver wire podcast, but I've seen him in 5 or 6 leagues this just today, just scanning through, doing waivers, and he's out there. He's out there in leagues. A lot of people dropped him thinking he was done for the season, and he's not. He is potentially practicing this week. I'm not necessarily confident he'll play this week, but the fantasy playoffs, he looks almost a lock to play. And with Atlanta, Carolina, and Miami being his schedule in the fantasy playoffs, he looks an absolute unbelievable wide receiver 2+ with upside. We all know what Mike Evans can do, and certainly getting touchdowns is something that he does at a great rate. So looking at adding him, if he is available, he is worth breaking the bank for in your leagues, and he's a must-add in almost all formats. If you're looking for tight end options, Brenton Strange has got to be added. He is on an unbelievable hot streak. I know he was injured, but if you look at what he has done in PPR leagues, now he got hurt in week 5. So if we look at what he's done in the games this season that he has been healthy, he has scored 9.9, 4.1, 12, 10.5, 14.3, and 13.5. So that's a really, really good number. And if he continued that trajectory all the way through, he'd be a top 6 tight end for this season. So he is a big option. He's owned in only 30% of leagues. You know, he is someone that as a streaming option, as a flex option, and as a tight end option, he offers you a lot of variety and a player that you should be adding in all formats. So again, especially PPR leagues, he will add you that extra boost. But especially if you've got some buys this week, Hunter Henry, for example, Strange is a really good pickup for him. Looking at Jaden Higgins. Now, this one isn't necessarily going to overly excite people. I think if you're in the playoffs already, or if you are perhaps chasing to get into the playoffs and need a big performance, this might not be the waiver wire ad for you. But if you're looking for a solid floor play every single week, Jaden Higgins, who is owned in about 35% of leagues, is someone I would be adding. He tends to sort of average this sort of 9 to 10 points a game, and he's hit that 9.5 mark 5 of his last 6 games in terms of fantasy points. So nice floor. Not high ceiling, and you're not going to get that out of anyone in Houston. But if you need someone to contribute and just be a nice, safe play, especially on bye week, he's a good option, but he's not one I would break the bank for. Instead, I'd be looking at these next 2 players. Excuse me. The first one is Devon Vele. Now, Devon Vele, since we have seen Rashid Shaheed leave, we've seen a significant amount of volume go his way. In just 2 weeks, he's had 11 targets, 130 receiving yards, and a touchdown. And he is putting up top 25 fantasy weeks. So he is that wide receiver 2, high volume, in an offense where, because this team is losing a lot and they lose a lot of games, they need to pass it about. Now, Vele comes with a sort of really good he's almost that like Wan'Dale Robinson type of player. There's not a high ceiling there, but there's a very, really, really lovely floor with high volume there. So I like Vile, especially in a PPR league, in sort of those standard leagues or half point. He's less of an option for me because it is all dependent on those catches that he's getting. But he is getting a lot of volume. And actually, he's probably taking away quite a bit from Juwan Johnson. So again, going back to that tight end with Strange, if you've got Juwan Johnson, that could be a switch that you could make here. Adonai Mitchell is a player who I've been talking about for a couple of weeks, and Patreons have been asking me, like, oh, would you start Adonai Mitchell last week? And I said, yeah, absolutely. Like, if you're desperate and you need a swing play, he is it. He is a big boom or bust guy, and he delivered in week 13 for you. You're not going to get a lot of big volumes out of him, but you are going to get those big explosive plays, and that's what Adonai Mitchell can bring. If you need a desperation play to get into your playoffs, he is that guy. He's a game wrecker. He is a desperation play in playoffs. He's owned in like 90. He's free in 99% of leagues. So he is out there. He is not owned by nearly anyone. And so he is someone that if you're just chasing a game, he can bring you that fantasy turnaround. And I know people who used him last week, who followed my guides that are on Patreon, or who were in the Patreon chat. And there's on Patreon, by the way, there is a sale now on Patreon. So check it out, patreon.com/5yardrush. If you sign up for free, you get all my game reviews. I've done them for the last couple of weeks. But also as well, if you you can actually take a trial and you can get a period of time to really trial it at a significant discount. So make sure you check it out. Join the chat. It's you're getting a lot of insight. You get access to me to set your lineups for the weekend as well, which is useful, I'm sure. But Adonai Mitchell is someone that I've actually been really in on the last few weeks. So we talked about him on the main show. We've talked about him in the Waiver Wire show. I talked about him in my write-ups as well. So he is getting a decent amount of play, and he is getting some volume to go along with that as well, especially targets. Now, it's not always connecting. Tyrod isn't the best quarterback, but hey, you only need a couple of those targets to get you a big score. John Menchie's the other one. He's the complete opposite of Adonai Mitchell. Very safe floor, not a high ceiling. He's going to need that volume to really get there. He is getting a nice sort of lift on target share. He had 24% target share. He's out there almost every snap. He played 97% of snaps last week. He is a good play. Now, a lot of people would have started him last week and be disappointed. It was a really tough matchup, so he wasn't someone that I was like absolutely loving to play this week or last week, but I think he's got better matches coming forward. So available in 85-90% of leagues. John Menchie is a guy, again, that sort of floor play. I also think, again, looking at these receivers that are going to give you a sort of a nice set floor, Dalton Schultz again fixes that for you. Another tight end. He is almost 50% all owned, but he is putting up pretty decent numbers this week. He's had, or this season, he's already had 72 targets, and he is averaging sort of that 10, 11 fantasy points per game. The problem with him is he doesn't score touchdowns. He's had one all season. If CJ Stroud starts finding Dalton Schultz, we could get over the top with the touchdowns, and all of a sudden that could yield to him being a significant option moving forward. So if you think you're getting sort of a tight end 10 on what he's doing now, and he's likely to get some positive touchdown regression, he could be top 5, top 6 of the position. So I'm in on Dalton Schultz coming down the stretch here again as someone who you can rely on. Just again get you sort of through your flex week, your bye weeks, your last bye weeks, and again give you nice consistency in the playoffs. Another couple of tight ends here, Darren Waller. Again, he will score touchdowns. His schedule is pretty good. He's got the Jets, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, and Tampa Bay for the rest of the fantasy season. So, yeah, he will continue to be a touchdown shout. And again, if you're chasing tight ends touchdowns, he is a good bet for that. He's available in about 70% of leagues. And Harold Fanning continues to get himself some touchdowns. I would say now Njoku's pretty much finished there in Cleveland, especially with this regime of quarterbacks. I don't love that offense. I don't really want too many pieces of that. But if we're running out of options here, he is a pretty good one to go for sure. And then keeping on with the receivers, because it is very much a receiver week here on the waiver wire. Jalen Coker had a really, really good week. When Ted McMillan is getting double covered like he is, you're going to have Jalen Coker get it open over the middle, and he is going to have opportunities. Again, I don't really want to buy loads into this offense, but if you're in a super deep league and you just need a couple of guys to get you through your bye week, then I would definitely say Jalen Coker is a guy that I would be looking to target more and more. Now we're going to get to some running backs, because let's be honest, the waiver wire on running backs is really, really thin. Best option out there is Chris Rodriguez. Excuse me. He is 75% free, or he's owned in about 20, 23, 24% of leagues. The problem is he's not on the field enough. He is the lead back, but he is in a committee. He plays about 40% of the snaps, 41% last week. And, he had an okay day, 11 rushes, 41 yards, and a touchdown. It was 10 fantasy points, 10.1 to be precise. And it's just not a huge volume there. He has got a good schedule. He's got Minnesota, who are giving up 22 points per game. The Giants, who are giving up 38 points per game. Philly giving up 25 points per game. But if you split that three ways, other than the Giants game, they're not huge. So kind of like if you're desperate, you need something, then fine. But there isn't a lot of ceiling there. I would much rather be chasing some of these ceiling plays coming up. Bam Knight could potentially be one if Trey Benson. Now, I actually think Trey Benson probably had a bit of an injury, a re-injury, or some form of setback, because it looked all likely he was going to go, and then all of a sudden he does. So Bam Knight is continuing to get work. He is definitely putting up reasonable numbers over the last 3-4 weeks. He has been just outside that RB1 range, but literally on the fringes of that. And he's been putting up sort of Bijan Robinson-esque catches in terms of he's had 11 catches in his last 3 weeks. And it's really only Bijan who's had those numbers. So, if Trey Benson doesn't go this week, Bam Knight is a decent option to pick up for a 1 week, but we know there's a cap on that. When we're looking at other options, you're then having to look at the handcuffs. So for me, Blake Corum, we saw Kyron Williams, he got an ankle injury. It was a bit of a shock that he came back into that, I think, because the game, they ended up losing the game, but it was a close game and they were trying to win the game. So I would definitely be, with that ankle injury, and I would look at the uptick in usage in Blake Corum. The Blake Corum should be owned everywhere. He's free in 85% of leagues. So I would definitely be picking up more and more of him now. And I would be looking to get some of these players who can really be those handcuff and take you to victory. Brian Robinson, no one's going to pick him up this week because they're on bye. But Brian Robinson, if Christian McCaffrey goes down, Brian Robinson is your league winner. He's available in 75% of leagues. I actually think they're probably in Philadelphia going to rest Saquon Barkley if they're online for the playoffs. And if that happens, then Tank Bigsby is 20% owned. He is going to be available. And again, we're looking at other situations. Malik Davis scored a touchdown on Thanksgiving. We know Javonte Williams is fragile. Malik Davis isn't owned by anybody. These are the guys I would much rather be targeting. Keaton Mitchell, again, scored a touchdown this week. If Derrick Henry breaks down due to that age, these can happen. These are the sorts of players that can usurp and be your league winners for you. Ray Davis is not one I'd be forgetting about either. He is only owned in 7% of leagues. And again, if that division, if their playoff hopes are like, well, we're going to get the wild card, we can't chase down the Patriots, they might put James Cook on the shelf last couple of games, fantasy championship week. Ray Davis could be an option there. And Jaleel McLaughlin is another one. I think Jaleel McLaughlin is going to actually see an uptick of more work. He's available in only 3%, or he is only owned in 3% of leagues. So again, he has got a lot of options to follow. I also think that Raheem Mostert I think you could see Ashton Jeanty probably be ceding touches down the stretch. What have Las Vegas got to work for? And we've seen what happens, especially at the goal line, Raheem Mostert could pick up some touchdowns for you. So I like any of those guys over like a Chris Rodriguez ad. Another sneaky one I'd be keeping an eye on is Devin Singletary. We've seen this flip-flop. It went to Singletary, then it went to Tracy. It now looks like it's coming back Singletary's way again. They want to buy this week. It's kind of like I don't love the option, but it is an option there for you. So that's where we are with sort of the running back options. Other wide receiver options I've not talked about. Keep an eye on these players who have been injured, who are coming back. Jaden Reed, 38% owned. I talked about him last week. I do think he will eat into Christian Watson's impressive sort of takeover of this offense. They definitely need more bodies going there. I also would be keeping an eye out on Isaac Tesla. He is getting more and more work, and we're starting to see that happen, especially with Amon-Ra St. Brown going down with an injury. I would suspect that he is a player that could be out for the rest of the fantasy season. If not, we're definitely going to see him out for the next 2 weeks. And so I think the guy I'd be expecting to come out of this with a huge upshot is Isaac Tesla. Now, the reason he's not higher in my running order is I'm not 100% confident in this. And I'm also worried about what happens to Detroit with no Amon-Ra St. Brown, with no Sam Laporta. Brock Wright has been out. I don't know if he's back this week. You know, my worry is it all goes to Jahmyr Gibbs. I think Dave Montgomery will get a bit of an uplift. I think Jameson Williams will get a bit of an uplift. So the reason I'm not higher on Isaac Tesla is twofold. One is that, and the other is there is Tom Kennedy lying around, and I do think that role is yet to be defined. And I am hedging a bit because it could go in. And then you've also got Khalil Raymond, who's knocking around as well. Or Khalif Raymond, not Khalil, sorry, Khalif Raymond. So, but I think, they drafted Tesla for a reason. I think Tesla is the guy I would look to come into this. He did score a touchdown. He made an explosive play. And he is getting touchdowns. If you think about this, he has only had 11 targets and he has scored on 3 of those. He's a reliable guy in that sort of role. So I do think you could see Tesla getting more work, but there are multiple pathways blocking him. But if I'm thinking about just asterisk players who could really break a season, Tesla's one I'd be putting a name by and a check by for sure. Lieberman, I keep talking about him every single week. But he is a player who's starting to get more and more work, but he's not getting those sort of 10, 12 fantasy points. But I do think that could happen come the end of the season. And don't forget Kayshon Boutte. He's going to get dropped in leagues this week because of waivers. Now, when he gets dropped, I'd be adding him because he has had significant performances right up until he got injured, and he hasn't necessarily been the same since, but he did get into the box last night. So I think he's a key focal part of this offense, and I think he's going to get dropped this week in a lot of leagues. So I would be looking to add him when he gets dropped for sure. And don't sleep on Greg Dortch as well. He's been getting some work. So he's a player you'd be keeping an eye on as well. That's pretty much going to do it for most of the receiving or most of the sort of skill position options. The only other one I've not mentioned is Isaiah Likely. Now, he had a pretty good week last week, but there's 2 things. One is Mark Andrews is going to just continue to be ahead of him like he has been all season. And then he also fumbled the ball in a key point in that game. And I think that's pretty much going to kill any momentum he built up with a decent stat line. Excuse me. Kickers, there's a couple that we could keep an eye on. Evan McPherson, we've been talking about for a few weeks. Now he becomes a key option. He had a huge week this week. He's owned in 40% of the leagues, so he is available in 60% of leagues. And again, with Joe Burrow back, he's a big option. I also like Riley Patterson. He's been banging them in, and he's got the Jets this week. That should be a really good opportunity. And as well, if you're looking for additional coverage there, There's a few others. Chase McLaughlin, if he's out there, he keeps booming long field goals, so he could be really helpful in those situations. And defenses, Baltimore will be dropped after what happened this week, but they've got a good matchup against Pittsburgh. I also really, really like the Commanders against Minnesota, especially if there's no JJ McCarthy, or even if there is. Minnesota absolutely stink right now. That could be a really good play to pick up the Commanders here. The Buccaneers against New Orleans, that's always a great opportunity here. And then Miami against the Jets, I think is, again, another really good play. Also, I don't hate Tennessee Titans against Cleveland. I think that is an obscure one if you're really stuck for options. That could give you more alternatives as well. That's going to do it. A couple of things for me before we wrap up. One, apologies for no main show the last couple of weeks. Danny and I's schedules have just been really, really tough to marry. He's had some sort of personal celebrations going on, which is great. It hasn't aligned with my schedule. We've made, it's been a bit difficult to get aligned the last 2 weeks. I'm hoping we can spend on Friday. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll go back to that, get you ready for the playoffs. Next thing is the FFCC. We're into the semi-final stage. There are just 4 teams in the main event, 4 teams in the plate. The Squid Game is all wrapped up, so literally just down to the final stages now, and we will crown our 7th world champion in just 4 weeks' time. So very, very exciting for that. If you want to sign up, I'm doing a giveaway that if you get, if we reach, so we were going to be giving away a Jeff Garcia signed jersey. It's just up there. That's why I looked. We're giving that away regardless. But if we raise another, I think at time of recording, it's about 380 more pounds. I'll throw in a second prize that we're going to give away. And I'll let whoever wins to choose which one they want. So, 2 signed gifts just in time for Christmas, hopefully. Will depend a little bit on where you live. Shipping and all those sorts of things around Christmas are out of my control. I will get them shipped next week, so it really will be down to the post office, but I will do my best to get them in time for you for Christmas. But they will be shipped. They are here, so we can get it done hopefully pretty quickly. So yes, all you need to do is sign up and enter the details are below. So please make sure you do that. It'd be great to have you. If you don't know what the FFCC is, you're seeing this for the first time. It's our charity fantasy football best ball competition. It's a knockout competition. So effectively, it's forget a league phase. It's a knockout competition, and you play with some of the best analysts in the world and some of the best fantasy players in the world. Typically, it runs around 300 odd people. I'd love to grow it more next year. We'll see what happens. So don't miss your place. Sign up and donate. If you sign up and donate prior to Friday the 5th or on Friday the 5th, then we will be crowning a winner this weekend, or 2 winners, hopefully, if we hit that target. And yeah, we'll be doing other bits and pieces. We'll be doing playoff leagues and other bits and pieces. So really appreciate each and every one of you for joining, for subscribing, so putting time aside to listen to us. I hope you've had great value from this, and also go and support the guys at the NFL show. They will be putting together more great content over Christmas and in the off season as well. So looking forward to their show later on as well. But that's going to do it for this show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much, as always, for the support. I look forward to catching up with all of you soon. And don't forget, as always, keep rushing.